Hi, I'm Virginia from Right Clinic, and here with me today is Gertrude from the Bold PhD. Would you like to introduce yourself today, Gertrude?
Yes, thank you, Virginia, for having me. Really appreciate you interviewing me today. I'm Gertrude Nonterah, and I created a website called The Bold PhD, which came out of the need to just share job search secrets, maybe with people that were had advanced degrees, but perhaps were on the job market, and because we had stayed in academia so long, didn't know how to navigate the wider job market beyond academia. So I created the Bold PhD for that, and the accompanying YouTube channel as well. And professionally, I work as a medical communications professional with Thermo Fisher Scientific, which is a Fortune 500 biotech company here around the world. It's multinational, but most people know it as maybe the lab supply company, but we're more than that. And I get to work on a cell therapy team at Thermo Fisher, creating different content assets.
Amazing. That is very impressive. And so, how long have you been doing this for?
Yeah, so I would say I've been in this field since I've been writing professionally. I was a freelance writer at first when I was in my postdoc and, needed a side hustle. So I live in California. And the thing about California is it's super expensive. It's notoriously expensive. Makes no sense why it's so expensive. But anyway, as a postdoc, my salary wasn't so hot. And so I decided to supplement it with freelance writing. And this was in 2017. So I'd say that's about 7 years ago. But then specifically with health and medical, I've been in this field since maybe 2021. So about 3 years, maybe going on 4. Yeah, but before that, prior to 2021, as a full-time science communicator, I was working freelance, doing freelance writing.
Amazing. So, when you were freelancing, how are you finding your clients, and what made you switch from freelancing to working as an employee?
Right. So, wow, so many loaded questions. So when I was a freelance writer, the way I found clients so many ways. One of my very first consistent clients. First of all, when you're a freelance writer, one of the things I found is if you can get a client to pay you long term or to have a recurring relationship, it's so much more better for your business than having one offs. And so I made sure that whenever I was pitching myself, I pitched myself as I'd like to write content for you monthly, right? And so it started out with a website called Craigslist here in the US, and it's sort of like a classifieds website. You can go there and find so many things, including shady characters. And but I used it as a way to find my very first gig. I went actually my husband had forwarded it to me because I had told him I'm starting a freelance writing business, and so he forwarded it to me. He's like, "Hey, I saw this on Craigslist. Why don't you check it out?" Had somebody respond to me, started a relationship with them, and then they began to refer me to people that they knew because the person I started creating content for was a business owner, a small business owner. So I started that way. And then from there, I was part of an entrepreneur network here in San Diego. So I'd attend those events. So there were people there that I ended up pitching and getting clients that way. I just use old fashioned email sometimes and LinkedIn to reach out to folks. Some of those were successful. Most of the time, you'll see that 80 to 90% of those, nobody will respond to you. But the one or two people that do respond to you, that always ends up going well. But one of the key things is I always made sure that when I was pitching myself, I wasn't pitching myself to just write one thing. I was pitching myself mostly at the time, I was pitching myself to create educational blog content and social media content. And that's how I got started. And that's how it was a side hustle from 2017 until about 2018. From 2018 to about the end of 2020, I was running it because I was out of a job. So I was running it full time. Then what made me switch to full-time employee in 2021? Well, so many factors. I think it was freelance writing is great, and I think some people are absolutely built for that, absolutely built for entrepreneurship. But I think it's also good to admit to yourself if maybe you don't always want to be responsible for everything. Okay. I think I am an employee with an entrepreneurial mindset. So I heard people call that like an entrepreneur. So you like to innovate and you like to think with an entrepreneurial mindset, but you don't necessarily want to take on all the big risks that come with entrepreneurship, right? Or running your own business. And so I think I'm one of those people. So while I absolutely loved the freedom that came with freelance writing, it's also a lot of pressure. Because you have to unlike most other countries, well, I don't know, not most other countries, but a lot of countries have nationalized healthcare systems, right? In the US, we don't necessarily have that for various reasons. And so paying for healthcare is really expensive. And I had a child who needed some special care, and paying for that out of pocket was just too much. So the solution was getting an employed job with good health insurance to really help my child. So I think it's those two main things. Not having to take on all the risk, and also, well, people will also argue that jobs are risky these days because of mass layoffs, which is true. I totally concur. But sometimes it's a little bit of security, a little bit more security, knowing that, okay, I can expect a paycheck every so often. And as long as I'm employed, I can get good health insurance. Doesn't negate people's entrepreneurial aspirations or ability to be an entrepreneur. It's just that was what was good for my family, so I went that way.
That's very sensible. Thank you. And sorry for the very loaded questions. I realized how much I asked in a small space, but you did very well to answer that. So thank you. And so, so my next question would be, if you are working with this company, do you feel the need, or do you ever take on any clients independently? So do you still do freelance projects, or are you just fully just an employee at the moment?
Once in a while, I'll take on something if somebody reaches out to me, but it's not something that I actively go seek out. I did have somebody reach out to me, I think last year, and I did a project for them, and it was great. I got paid nicely. Um, and so I'll do one-off things here and there, but it's not something that I actively pursue right now.
That's good. I think it's great to have that balance and then also know what your kind of threshold is as a freelancer, and seeing kind of what the benefits are if you were to go back into employment. And obviously, you made that decision based on your circumstances and your needs, and then also the country that you're in as well. So I think we do take for granted sometimes in certain countries when you do have a national health service and you don't have to worry about such an expensive health insurance bill. And so I think that's been quite a big difference for me being in the UK. Even if you don't have a job, you don't have to pay for health insurance. You can go and access it free at point of service. But in Germany, everyone has to have health insurance, whether
Mhm.
that's paid for by your job or it's paid for by you through any means of income. So it's not truly 100% free like it is in the UK. And I've heard from colleagues as well that the US health system is quite expensive if you pay out of pocket. And like you said, if you need continual support with health conditions as well. So thank you for sharing that and being very realistic, because I think freelancing is like the dream, but ultimately it's not going to work for everyone, and it does depend on what you feel is going to work best for you. And it's also nice to know that you can kind of dip in and out of it
Right.
with some projects that are one off.
Mm.
So what would be next on the horizon for you? So as someone who is an employee at a Fortune 500 company, and you do one-off projects here and there, and then you're also running your YouTube channel and the Bold PhD. What's kind of your future vision, and what do you think about the future of medical writing in general?
Right. So of course, I think a lot of people got worried with the rise of a lot of generative AI tools, and I've had a lot of people reach out to me. This is speaking to your question about the future of medical writing.
Yeah.
I had a lot of people reach out to me to ask, "What do you think is going to happen? Do you think AI AI is going to replace medical writers?" And I've given several answers over the past years, especially. Um, I think that I heard something and it said, AI won't necessarily replace people, but people using AI are going to replace you if you don't learn how to use it, right? So I don't think that medical writing, because medical writing, I think, as a name for the profession, I've said this before, that I think sometimes it's a bit of a misnomer because you don't just write. There's just so much that goes into it beyond writing. Even for those who are choosing to use AI tools, they will tell you that in order to get that content piece of where they want it, they have to do heavy editing. And so that's what, even for some people, it's become. They'll generate a draft using AI and then they'll give it to a human writer to develop, right? And so there is that. And so I think that for medical writers and for writers in general, we have to study what the landscape of the market is. It's foolish to say you're just going to behave like AI doesn't exist. It exists. It's not going anywhere. It's not going back into the box, right? It's already out of the box. So what you do is you learn how you can use these tools to complement your work. Maybe use it to cut short or cut down what research you may be doing. I know that it's helpful that way, but even then, when I've used something like ChatGPT for research, I have to go back and fact check because it makes stuff up. It
Yeah.
hallucinates. There are lots of there are a lot of errors and made up facts. And so it's absolutely important to learn how to use it, to learn what the flaws are, and to be comfortable in the fact that we're going to be okay. There's always technology that has come to upend what used to exist. It's normal, it's expected, it's going to happen. When the internet first arrived, right, people thought it was a fad. People thought it was a passing thing. Well, no. I mean, almost that more than 30 years later, we know like almost everybody does something on the internet, even if you don't necessarily use it every single day. Everybody does something on the internet. When social media started, a lot of people saw Facebook as a threat. People still see Facebook and social media platforms as, oh, we don't need this. But the reality is more than a billion users are more than a billion users around the world are using various different social media tools. So again, it's going to be unwise to just sit in your corner and say, I'm not going to use this tool when people are you. For instance, let's say you're a business and you're like, I'm never going to market on social media. Well, I'm sorry, but your competitor who is using social media is probably going to get more customers than you, right? You can have great customer service. You can have all the things, like all the old-fashioned things, right? Which is great, which is good. We appreciate that. But ultimately, the person that's leveraging the current technology is going to win. So one of the things I say is, as it stands right now, I don't think AI is just going to just wipe out medical communications as a job. You still need a lot of human effort to do a lot of the work, not just the writing work, by the way. I've talked on my YouTube channel, I did a video responding to this particular question. And one of the things that I said was that for me, right, in my role, I not just have to write. I don't just have to write. Like there's a lot of communication that has to happen within the company because it's such a huge company. So many products are launching. I have to see where I fit in, how my team's work fits in, how that analyze what the people in the market are saying and what they need. What are the field commercial people coming up with? Like, what are they hearing when they go into the labs of the people that use our instruments, right? And how can I use that and then the data we have to create an asset that makes sense for the market? It's not just writing. right? So but then once you understand that, number one, and two, you understand that AI is not going anywhere, and so it's good to learn how to use some of these tools to complement your work. I think the sooner you do that, the easier it will become. Also, I would say that I don't know if your audience is all freelance writers, but there are always opportunities for you to grow within a company, especially for those of us that may be employed. And it's beyond writing again. So you may also look at those opportunities. For instance, one of the things that I'm considering is um, studying more about medical affairs, right? Medical affairs is really important in the pharmaceutical and biotech industry, making sure that everything complies with regulatory body regulations. And so this is something that I'm interested in learning more about, because I haven't, even though I know a lot about it, I haven't learned it myself. And so it's something, so being in a continuous state of improving yourself is also going to be really useful in the coming years.
Yeah, amazing. So I think I really agree with what you said about AI, and I'll definitely link your video where you talk more about AI and the kind of consequences for medical writers. People who listen to this, they are either looking about to get into medical writing, or they're already freelancers, or they're employed, or they're looking to do medical writing maybe as a side business, to try and go part time maybe in their clinical role, or try and reduce other kind of priorities, or even go into retirement as well, because some people like to do something to supplement their pension. So we have quite a mixed audience, which is great, nice broad audience. And I think they really appreciate a lot of the points that you touched upon. And I agree with, when the internet first came out and everyone couldn't really access it, it was really expensive and it took a long time to connect. And now it's everywhere. It's even in your pocket on your phone. And if you don't get in on it now, you're going to be one of the stragglers, one of the slow people to adopt, and you're going to have missed the wave of everyone who's learning and developing. Like you said, developing yourself and continuous improvement is so important, especially from a personal point of view. As whenever you do something, you want to feel like you're growing, and when you don't, you feel less satisfied, I think. And so what would be your next steps in your career, or what are you working on right now? What would you like to share with our audience in terms of anything that you can offer to help them with their journey?
Yes, great. So personally, I am writing a book on breaking into medical communications, medical writing. I feel like everybody that reaches out to me to talk to me about my career is always like, how do you actually even start this, right? And
Mm.
so after hundreds of questions, I decided to write a book, and so I'm writing that and hope to release that maybe before middle of this year, or maybe in Q3. Let's see. And so I want to release that book. I also have a YouTube channel. So for those of you that may be watching this, and maybe you have a master's degree or PhD and you want to try something else beyond teaching and research, you can definitely check out the Bold PhD and theboldphd.com. As far as my own career goes, I one of the questions I get a lot is, what do you think about certifications, different certifications within medical writing? And so this year, it's my year of trying to explore those kind of certifications. So the two specific ones I'm looking at, and I'll share that later on, maybe on my YouTube channel. The two specific certifications I'm looking at, because I want to go through the experience and document some of that for people. Uh, and document some of that for people, so people know if it's worth it or not. Because I get a lot of questions around, is this certification worth it? Is that certification worth it? And personally, I don't have any certifications, but I've worked in this field, like I said, for the last 3 years as an employee, and then before that as a freelance writer. So it's totally doable without one, right, Virginia? Do you have
Yeah.
certifications, different certifications?
I, I do not have certifications. I started exactly the same way: freelancer, then employment, then redundancy, freelancer, employment, redundancy. now freelancer again. It's kind of been a big wave for me.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I haven't had any certifications, but again, I get asked a lot of the same questions. So that's why I created this podcast
Yes,
and some
yeah.
courses and things. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a really good resource you have here. It's very specific to medical writing, which is wonderful. I'm kind of like all over the place all the time. But anyway, um, because people have asked me those questions, I want to go through the experiences myself and then share those experiences and let people, okay, yeah, it was worth it. No, it's not. I know both of them are quite, these certifications are not cheap at all.
Mm.
But I want to do it. Once I do it, I'll have them, but I'll also have the experience to share. And I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. That sounds really exciting because I've definitely seen some very expensive certifications come out, especially by universities. And I
Yeah.
think that, if they're trying to standardize the way that you get into medical writing, is that going to become a barrier? So I think that is quite interesting to me. And I think because you have such a strong academic background as a PhD, and I was a pharmacist for 7 years in community, I think it was probably easier for us to transition because, like you said, we had the experience and we were able to kind of transfer those skills into something else. And so people who are, looking to start from very beginning, maybe just going straight into their first degree to become medical writers, what is that experience like? I think that's something that's new and up and coming. But also, if universities are creating degrees and formalizing the education, then it means that medical writers are definitely not going anywhere. So they are trying
Right.
to
Right.
cement our presence. So
Yeah, they've
yeah,
seen the demand and they want to cash in. It's always
exactly. Exactly. So, so it's been really insightful to speak with you today, and I'll leave links to your YouTube channel, your video on AI. If that video with your experiences comes out, then I'll come back to the podcast and link it as well. Or maybe we could do another episode where you talk about some of your experiences. And then also I'll link to the Bold PhD and your LinkedIn. So that's how I got Gertrude onto the podcast. Everyone who's listening, reach out to people on LinkedIn. Don't be a slow adopter for LinkedIn. LinkedIn is definitely where it's happening, and start reaching out, having conversations. So thank you so much, Gertrude.
Thank you so much, Virginia. Thank you.
Amazing. Okay, well, have a good day, everyone. Thank you for listening or watching, and we'll see you at the next episode. Bye.